Hi, I'm Jim Barnett. My mom used to say I was born with my motor running. I love to be on the go. I'm on a mission to check out as many interesting places and as many interesting people as I can. And along the way, I want to see who's got the best food. Hey, you're welcome to ride along, but I gotta go.
I've got a confession to make. I've never been to a Mardi Gras celebration. I've traveled quite a bit, even along the Gulf Coast, but I've never been to a full-fledged Mardi Gras celebration. So I did some research and aimed the motorhome towards the town that's synonymous with Mardi Gras. I know, you're thinking that town that starts with new, I made the same mistake. If you do your research, you find out that the home of the original Mardi Gras in this country is Mobile, Alabama. Well, that's the one I want to check out, Mobile.
Mardi Gras is huge here, and there's more Mardi Gras, or carnival history, in Mobile than anywhere in the country. They've even got a special Mardi Gras museum. And if the size of the celebration is any indication, Mobile has to hold the title. While most towns along the Gulf Coast celebrate the season from early January until the day after Ash Wednesday, here in Mobile, the season starts in November. While most towns have one parade on one day, Mobile has 35 parades, with as many as 5 parades in one day. And that doesn't include all of the formal balls and other celebrations. Oh, by the way, just so we're on the same wavelength here, Mardi Gras is French for Fat Tuesday, the day before Ash Wednesday. And Carnival, some pronounce it Carnival, is the entire season. Nowadays, most people just use Mardi Gras to refer to everything. I know, I lost about half of you when I said Mobile was the home to the original Mardi Gras in this country. You went off to check for yourself. Trust me, it is. It all got started here when the Lemoyne brothers from France came to settle what was then called the French Louisiana Territory, and they picked Mobile to be the first capital. That was in 1702. Well, obviously they brought their religious beliefs with them, so by 1703 they were celebrating their first Mardi Gras in the new country, right here in Mobile. I'm not too sure all of the celebrating nowadays is based on religious beliefs, so maybe we need a little refresher on the religious connection. Who better to explain it than Sister Maria Goretti, who just happened to be helping the elderly as they watched an afternoon parade.
Lent is a time of prayer and fasting. In days past, people did not eat meat. They really fasted every day during Lent, except Sundays. That doesn't mean they only ate bread and water, but they abstained from meat more, and they ate less, and less treats and all. So in order to get the house cleaned up and get rid of the meat, they had a big feast on Tuesday. That's why they call Fat
Tuesday, okay.
This goes back to Europe. This is not, you know, and I suppose it developed into these parades and things.
She's right about that. It turned into a lot more than just a feast and believers preparing their homes for Lent. And it didn't go on for months and months like it does now. But the partying isn't a totally new thing.
I'm pretty sure I've heard about the bishops ranting and raging in the Middle Ages about the excessive Mardi Gras-ing.
You see a few things that are a little over the top, but for the most part, Mobile's Mardi Gras is pretty family friendly, especially when compared to other big city celebrations. The original Mardi Gras had been going along just fine for about 150 years or so before it came to a screeching halt during the Civil War. People just weren't in the mood to celebrate. But one wise man knew they had to move on. They had to get out of the Civil War doldrums and start to rebuild physically and emotionally. And to this day, that one man is credited with resurrecting Mardi Gras in Mobile.
Well, it was actually a tradition for years and years, but it was stopped because of the Civil War. And Joe Kane, the day that we're celebrating today, after the Civil War, he's the one that started it back up.
Legend has it that Joseph Stilwell Kane was saddened by all the depression he saw after the war between the states. So, in 1866, he grabbed whatever he could find to create a ridiculous homemade costume and proceeded to parade through the streets of Mobile. Then, a handful of his friends grabbed some instruments to follow him as the Lost Cause Minstrel Band. Anybody and everybody started to fall in line behind Joe and his friends. Before long, spirits were being revived, and Mardi Gras was restored as a local tradition. From that day on, the Sunday before Fat Tuesday is Joe's Day.
And this is why they call it Joe Cane Day, but it's also the People's Parade.
Everybody comes out for Joe Cane Day. Well, not that they don't for the other days of Mardi Gras, but this is the day when the common guy feels like he can be a part of the show. You see, since about 1711, most of the biggest Mardi Gras celebrations have been supported by secret, private clubs known as mystic societies, where their members actually hide their identities. Most of them are so exclusive you have to be invited to join. But on Joe Cane Day, everyone forgets about social standing and everybody comes out. But you better get here early. John Allison has been setting up on the same corner for 29 years. But he has to get here the night before to hold his spot.
Okay, this is the Sunday before Fat Tuesday, known as Joe Cane Day. They say it's the most fun day out of the entire Mardi Gras celebration here in Mobile. They've only, I'll repeat that, they've only got 3 parades today, but they say it gets pretty wild. We are here about 4 hours before anything starts, and we are parked about 5 blocks further away from downtown than where we normally park. And that's 4 hours before anything starts. It's going to be a great day.
On Joe Cane Day, you'll see luxury cars next to pickup trucks, and people in formals mingling with people in jeans. Everybody cuts loose and anything goes. Park the car and set up your grill, or leave the grill in the back of the truck. If you don't have a grill, just eat from the trunk of the car. And talk about friendly. All you have to do is walk by and they're handing you food. Now this is my kind of party. And as you walk along, there's always somebody with another piece of Mardi Gras history. My natural craving for sweets made me want to know more about king cakes, because you see them all over. They're like big flat donuts. Betty Reed explained the custom, and better yet, shared her cake.
Every year they have the king cakes. Inside the king cake is a baby. Whoever gets the baby has to buy the king cake for the next year. It's supposed to bring good luck all year.
Well, I didn't get the baby. I sure hope my luck holds out this year. I had great luck on Joe Cane Day when it came to food. Everywhere I went, people were feeding me. The only one that scared me just a little was back at John Allison's spot.
This is billed as the Roadkill Cookout.
Well, that makes your imagination go wild, but it was good, no matter what it was. In fact, everything I ate on Joe Cane Day was good. Most other days, I headed to the spot that all the locals talk about. It's synonymous with Mobile. Saucy Q's might be known as the local food stop, but people from all over the country have stopped in for their great barbecue. One bite, and you'll know why. I'll definitely be back whenever I'm in Mobile. And there's plenty of reasons to visit Mobile besides Mardi Gras. First off, it's one of the oldest settlements in the nation. That means there's a lot of history here. Back before 1702, when it became known as the capital of French Louisiana, it was home to a tribe of Native Americans known as the Mobilian tribe. When the Europeans arrived, it became a trading center between the Native Americans and the French. And by 1712, there were 400 people here. The town continued to grow, largely because Mobile Bay tied the Gulf of Mexico and international trade together with the inland waterways of North America, waterways that brought cotton to the Gulf for export around the world. By 1840, Mobile was the second largest cotton exporter in the country. Sadly, though, it was also the largest slave trading center in Alabama until the 1850s. You see, as cotton was moving south to be shipped, slaves were being moved north to produce that cotton. Because of its location on Mobile Bay, its proximity to the Gulf, and the abundance of lumber in the area, it grew as a shipbuilding center too. For those same reasons, Mobile has always been important militarily. That's evident today in the number of historic forts that dot the area. Right in the downtown area, there's Fort Condé. Down at the mouth of the bay on the east side is Fort Morgan. On the west is Fort Gaines. At the head of the bay is Spanish Fort, a great lookout point, and further inland, Fort Blakely. They're all open to the public, and they all have stories to tell. A great day trip when you're in the Mobile area is the drive down to Fort Morgan. I say day trip because Mobile Bay is huge, and just the drive along either side will take some time. Be sure to take Scenic 98, because that's where you'll see all the interesting stuff. With all the markers and plaques, it's like a self-made history tour. When you get to Gulf Shores in the Gulf of Mexico, hang a right. After about a 20-mile scenic drive on Fort Morgan Peninsula, you'll run into Fort Morgan. In 1864, during the Battle of Mobile Bay, this is where Admiral David Farragut yelled his famous command, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead!" After visiting the fort, and since you're right there at the Gulf Coast anyway, you might want to enjoy some of Gulf Shore's famous sugar white sand. Before you head over to the western side of Mobile Bay, you gotta spend a day visiting a newer piece of military history, right at the head of the bay, right across from downtown. It's the USS Alabama, and it's so big you feel like you're passing the Empire State Building in Alabama. It's actually 680 feet long and 108 feet wide with a 36-foot draft. It was moved here in 1964 after a long career that included serving in the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans during World War II. Almost every square inch of the ship is open to the public. Check out the captain's view. See how the officers lived. Do your own version of that scene from Titanic. Or test your aim on downtown Mobile. The whole facility is known as Battleship Memorial Park, and there's more to see than just the USS Alabama. The other big draw is the USS Drum, a World War II era submarine. She's the oldest Gato-class sub still in existence, first launched in 1941 and brought here in 1969. Her diesel-electric engines could move the 311-foot sub at 24 miles per hour on the surface and 10 miles per hour submerged. Those 10 torpedo tubes sank 15 ships with over 80,000 tons of enemy goods during the Big War. Now, I'll admit, I'm a little claustrophobic, but I can't imagine 6 officers and 54 enlisted men living in here. I couldn't wait to get out to the other displays, especially the airplanes and the helicopters.